underpublicized David West, an all-star this year, off to a great start tonight. And a change for Greg Popovich as he puts Manu Ginobili into the starting lineup in place of Michael Finley, meaning Tony Parker covers Chris Paul at the outset of this game.
Oh yeah, it's Greg Popovich. What had to change for his basketball team? He said basically two things. Number one, they had to do better with the basketball in their hands. Manu needs to be aggressive, Dan, while not turning it over. They've given up 44 points off turnovers in 2 games. The second thing is shoot better. New Orleans is doubling Tim Duncan on every catch, so other people have got to make shots.
San Antonio is 0 for 5 shooting, and they turned it over twice. And those were the 2 issues Greg Popovich brought up with us pregame. They need to shoot it better, and they need to turn it over less often.
And you like how New Orleans has started in this basketball game. I think they understood that San Antonio, with their backs against the wall, would come out, try to throw a haymaker. They've been poised.
The fadeaway by West not there. Tap back out by Chandler, but right to Parker. He's pushing it and lays it in as San Antonio finally gets on the board.
This is a San Antonio team that can transition, particularly with Parker. He's so good getting out and getting in the lane.
Paul using the screen beautifully and knocks down the baseline jumper, his second field goal of the night.
Just love the pace in which Chris Paul plays the game. He dictates the pace at which he goes.
Parker with the floater draws the foul, and goal number 1 defensively for New Orleans, maybe 1 or 1A, along with double teaming Tim Duncan, is keeping Tony Parker out of the lane. The foul on Paul, his first.
Now, what they have done, New Orleans, throughout the first 2 games in dominating the Spurs, particularly in the third period, is they have sagged defensively. They've taken away that paint. They've made things very tough on Tim Duncan, and they've forced people around him to make shots, something they've not been able to do yet.
You can see how Parker has elevated his scoring in the postseason. Remember, the finals last year, he was the MVP of the NBA Finals. But huge numbers against Phoenix, much lower numbers in the first 2 games against New Orleans, and you can say the same for Tim Duncan, who had a 5.3 rebound game in game 1. Reports that he was under the weather. The Spurs would not confirm that. They say he's fine. They say Ginobili's ankle is fine. They're not making excuses.
Now, the reason that graphic on Parker's important is he's not a high assist point guard. He's about 6 a game. He's got to score.
Well, there's everything you love about Paul. The hesitation, the change of pace, the teardrop. He's got the whole game.
But it keeps you off balance with that change of pace. He's the one who dictates when he stops and starts, so the defense doesn't know when to react and when not to.
Parker and Paul, friends, spent a long time talking to one another before the game, but fierce competitors right now. Parker, the kick. Ginobili for 3. And Thomas runs down the offensive rebound. Wide open, the 16-footer, short by Kurt Thomas, but it stays with the Spurs.
Okay, those are 2 shots that this team makes. Thomas is a guy who loves that 15-foot baseline jump shot. That's his shot. And how many times do you see Manu miss an uncontested 3? Not often.
We see Ginobili inserted into the lineup. There may be other subtle changes as Parker travels in the lane. Maybe we'll see more Brent Berry here tonight. He made 4 threes in the 4th quarter of game 2. Maybe even Robert Horry gets a little more run than he's been getting in the playoffs. But the Spurs have to find some way to knock down shots. Thomas almost knocks it away. West can't save it. Good D by Kurt Thomas.
Well, one of their goals in game 2 against David West, as you take a look at Byron Scott, one of their goals is to be more physical with David West. After he got 30 on him in game 1, they were much better with him. He only scored 10 in game 2.
Good deep position by Duncan. Ginobili off the glass and good. Tim Duncan now 0 for 3, and all of them within about 3 feet of the rim.
Well, you know what? He's not going to miss all those. Whoa.
Ginobili gets flattened, and Peterson looks like the guilty party.
That was a long way away from the ball, folks.
Now, Ginobili's been known for making things look worse than they are sometimes. We're going to look on the replay. Offensive foul on Peterson. A spark back in the building after the 8-0 start for the Hornets kind of quieted the crowd. 2-man game, Ginobili and Duncan, but they're not getting anywhere. Shot clock under 10. Ginobili again, sweet.
So already you you're seeing all the different elements of Manu's game. I mean, he will fill up a stat sheet. He's going to be all over the floor. Anywhere there's action, you can count on Manu. And he and Maurice Peterson are going after each other.
Ginobili almost goaded Peterson into another foul away from the ball. Ginobili's on the floor again. So is Peterson. And let's keep an eye on this matchup. It has gotten pretty heated early between Ginobili and Peterson.
Now, Ginobili, a guy who will stick his nose in it, and he's not afraid to mix it up. As you said, he will go ahead and sell it, although that's a pretty good sell.
Yeah.
He took a hit, and then off the bounce. And I like the way this guy gets 2 steps. He covers an awful lot of area.
Looking at the replay, no disputing the call at all. The foul on Peterson. Now Ginobili turns it over. New Orleans looking to run as always. Paul, the reverse layup. What a play by Chris Paul.
The terrific Jets. I mean, he has got explosion. There's almost a separate gear for him, and wise decision by David West to give it up.
8 early points for Chris Paul. Today named first team All-NBA. Was the runner-up for the MVP. Announced that a couple of days ago. Tim Duncan gets the long jumper to rattle in. Duncan today named second team All-NBA. And Manu Ginobili, the 6th man of the year in the NBA, was today named third team All-NBA as Chris Paul is defying logic with some of the shots he is making here tonight. At the other end, Tony Parker, coast to coast.
You got last year's final MVP answering right there, Tony Parker. Now how about Chris Paul setting the tone? I mean, this is a guy who sets the tone for this basketball team.
Paul misses the 3, rebounds Ginobili. Ginobili said yesterday, we have to treat this like a game 7. Down 2-0. The Spurs considering this a must-win game as Duncan knocks it down. No team in NBA history has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. The Spurs down 2-0 right now as New Orleans calls timeout. Well, 2 of the very best at what they do in the NBA. First, it's Chris Paul with a miraculous off-balance shot. But Tony Parker, blazing speed to the other end, and the Spurs are back within 2.
ESPN's presentation of the NBA playoffs, brought to you by Dodge. Live life to the fullest. Dodge, grab life. And the new Capital One Card Lab at CapitalOne.com. What's in your wallet?
ESPN's coverage of the NBA playoffs, broadcasted high definition and available on ESPN HD. Welcome to San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo. We are inside the AT&T Center, Game 3. The Spurs, the Hornets, and 2 of the very best at what they do. 2 of the great point guards in the league, and Chris Paul and Tony Parker. Parker has been very good so far. Paul has been sensational.
Greg Popovich told us before the game that this guy has looked like the best decision maker in basketball. They're outscoring the Spurs right now 12-8 in the paint, and a lot of the reason is this guard. Normally you think of post players scoring in the paint. His ability to dictate the pace at which the Hornets play is pivotal. He plays with a joie de vivre that emanates throughout the entire team. Remarkable for a guy at that young.
And earlier today, just his 3rd year in the NBA, another accolade for him, named first team All-NBA, along with MVP Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Kevin Garnett, and LeBron James. As mentioned, Tim Duncan today named 2nd team All-NBA. Manu Ginobili today named 3rd team All-NBA. More importantly, the Hornets are up 2-0 in the series. Chris Paul cannot be stopped right now. He's got a dozen.
He's 6 for 8. Peja Stojakovic, who has now drawn Bruce Bowen when he's on offense, has not taken a shot yet.
And Stojakovic with 47 points in the first 2 games of this series. Parker answers Paul's jumper at the other end.
Trying to give as good as he's gotten from Chris Paul.
What a special matchup between these 2 talented young guards. Parker's been around forever, but he's only 25. Paul just turned 23 a couple of days ago. Contested 3 by Stojakovic. Spurs ball.
This is one of the changes that Byron Scott's team is facing tonight. Instead of Bruce Bowen on Chris Paul, he is now on Stojakovic. That's a matchup that in one of the games in the regular season was what San Antonio elected to do, and Stojakovic struggled.
The Spurs started very cold, but have now hit their last 6 shots, make it 7. The classic Parker teardrop from the lane.
Both of these point guards have that teardrop, and both like to use it going right.
Bonzi Wells in for New Orleans for Morris Peterson, misses off the glass. Fabricio Alberto has checked in for San Antonio, as has Michael Finley. Ginobili and Thomas have gone to the bench. Paul with 12, Parker with 10. Parker again. Alberto misses, Chandler the rebound. Chandler was 3rd in the NBA in rebounding during the season. Had a terrific year. Paul again uses the screen and buries the J.
If you're going to go underneath the screen, this is a guy who has very good mid-range. Chris Paul is not a terrific three-point shooter. It's probably the only thing he hasn't done well this season is shoot it from deep. But that mid-range, that's solid.
Led the league in assists, led the league in steals, averaged better than 20 and 10. Parker stops on a dime, misses the jumper. New Orleans ball. Again, the screen by Chandler. Paul off to Bonzi Wells. He can't finish the jam. A fresh 24 for the Hornets. Chandler, a guy in a game 2 doors, only took 2 shots the entire game. Used most of his energy on defense against Tim Duncan, and Byron Scott doesn't have a problem with that.
Absolutely not. I mean, this guy's a terrific rebounder, athletic, and doesn't mind. Give him that, he's fine.
Beautiful. No combination executed that more often this year than Chris Paul and Tyson Chandler.
Something to be said for a guy who doesn't demand a ton of shots, and that's Tyson Chandler. And he's just scratching the surface on the offensive end of what he'll be by the time he's done.
The immediate double again on Tim Duncan, and this time Finley knocks down the open shot. A huge key for the Spurs.
This is a franchise that has won 4 titles in 9 years. They've set the standard in the most competitive basketball league in the world. They're not going to lie down.
Finley the foul on Bonzi Wells. New Orleans by 1. Let's check in with Rick Bucher.
You mentioned it, Dan. There were questions about Tim Duncan's health. I'm told that he is finally healthy. He actually contracted a 103-degree fever the morning after Game 1 and played Game 2 with a temperature of 101. But after getting hooked up to an IV yesterday, he showed up at shoot-around this morning and told the coaching staff that he is feeling normal. Now, Manu Ginobili, the same can't be said. He's playing at about 80% on that ankle, and it's clear that he can't explode off it the way that he normally can. The biggest question, though, is what can they expect out of their over 35 club in Robert Horry, Bruce Bowen, and Mike Finley? Those are the guys in past playoffs who have given them a lift, especially defensively. And in this series, the young Hornets have gone right by them. The thinking is that if a do-or-die situation on their home floor can't get them going, perhaps nothing can. Dan?
Rick, one of the most experienced, one of the oldest teams in the NBA against one of the younger teams in the league, and a Hornets team without a lot of playoff experience. Peja Stojakovic has played more playoff games than anybody else on New Orleans. As Parker goes out, keep in mind, Chris Paul had not played in the playoffs until this year, just his 3rd year in the NBA, and all he's done in his first 7 playoff games is average about 24 points and 12 assists per game.
I think more impressive maybe is the 85 assists and 9 turnovers in 7 games. Folks, I don't know if you can understand how incredible that is for a guy going through this for the first time.
Finley drifting a little bit to the left as he elevated for that shot. And New Orleans in the final minute of the first has the ball in a 2-point lead. It has been the Chris Paul show so far tonight. Duncan the miss off the rebound off the miss by Paul. Ginobili acting as the point guard right now for San Antonio. Duncan, too much, trying to touch pass, and the turnover sends Paul out at the other end. Good hustle by Bowen to knock it away.
You know, we talked about the Spurs and their pride and their toughness. This is the kind of play that typifies it. How about this? To be able to catch up to Chris Paul when he has a step on you speaks volumes about Bruce Bowen's hustle in that instance.
Bowen 4 times named to the NBA's first team, all-defensive team. And he is guarding Paul right now. Parker did it most of the first quarter. Bowen did it most of the first 2 games. Six-second difference between the game clock and the shot clock, and Paul will milk it a little bit. Little discard with the left hand. Wide open, Bonzi Wells. And plenty of time now for San Antonio. Foul to give for the Hornets. Ginobili, top off balance shot, no. And the first quarter, an energetic, intense first quarter, comes to a close with Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets leading by 2 double figures in the first for both point guards. New Orleans up 2-0 in the series, trying to make a very large statement here in hostile territory. They've got the lead after 1.
Welcome back. I'm here with Coach Scott. They made a couple of adjustments. What do you need to do to counter those?
We just got to relax a little bit. You know, I thought they came out, they got a little bit aggressive, and we just got to relax a little bit.
How do you continue to play aggressive and physical and not get caught up in the emotional game? What do you tell them?
You just got to, again, you just got to relax and just understand you've got to keep our focus and keep doing what we've been doing this whole series. And if we do those things, we'll be in good shape.
Good luck. Thanks, Coach.
Well, they've done a great job of that after taking out Dallas in 5 games in the first round. The Hornets with a couple of convincing wins over the Spurs in New Orleans. 1 by 18, 1 by 19. In each game, Doris, San Antonio had a slender lead at the half, and in each game, New Orleans demolished the Spurs in the third quarter.
Yeah, you look at the scoring differential, 65-35. Greg Popovich said basically, they seem to sustain their energy in the second half, and we went the opposite way. So that'll be a telltale sign as this game wears on. How do the Spurs react in the third period?
Chris Paul to the bench. Gennaro Pargo is in the backcourt now for New Orleans as Bonzi Wells fouls Michael Finley. Manu Ginobili continues to act as the point guard with Tony Parker on the bench. No Jacques Vaughn, no Damon Stoudemire. So again, another change as Coach Greg Popovich first started Ginobili and then using him as his secondary point guard.
Manu's capable of that. He is aggressive off the dribble. He does a terrific job on long drives just like that.
And 1.
That is a guy attacking the rim from 15 or 16 feet. And your backline defenders have got to do a better job of rotation to step in front of him. I mean, this guy's as good as he gets in the league from that deep. How does he start penetration from there and get to the rim?
The foul on Melvin Ely, who had just checked into the start of the quarter. And the 3-point play for Ginobili, the first lead of the night for the Spurs. In NBA history, when a team has been down 2 games to none in the best of 7, they have won 13 out of 211. Only 6% of the time has a team down 0-2 come back to win the series. If you believe in history and odds, those are the odds that the Spurs face. Alberto on a beautiful pass from Tim Duncan.
Just a terrific look. This is a Spurs team that will always make the extra pass. It is never a selfish basketball team.
Pargo had a very good year, a streaky year at times. Backup point guard, also played alongside Paul. Stojakovic inside. And we're going to have a jump ball. And once again, the decibel level here inside the AT&T Center rising as San Antonio has played better here. Let's look at the swarming defense on Stojakovic.
Well, what do you notice about the differences on each end of the floor? When Ginobili attacked the rim, there was no rotation. The Spurs, one of the best defensive teams in this league throughout their championship era, and they show why in that particular instance.
Duncan wins the tip. Parker is back in. Bowen goes to the bench. So, again, in a regular game, Greg Popovich might have sat Parker a little bit longer, but he's playing this one. He's coaching this one with a little more urgency. Ginobili is stripped. David West a little shaken up behind the play. Bonzi Wells can't finish. . 2 Parker with 10 points and a couple of assists already. Ginobili the miss. And the ball to the Hornets.
Now let's see if Peja Stojakovic with Bowen out of the game gets a look that's clean here.
Ginobili defending Stojakovic now. Stojakovic hit 5 threes in game 2. West into the double team. Too strong. Melvin Eli. And a foul from behind on Ginobili.
Some conversations. This has gotten chippy. And what you're seeing is a Spurs team that's got championship experience. And they're going to test the young New Orleans Hornets. They're going to be physical. And David West has got to keep his emotions in check. What did Byron Scott tell Rick Bucher? Let's relax.
And as Byron Scott told his team pregame, you don't win 4 championships in 9 years without having a lot of pride. And the Spurs understand the importance of this game. They get down 3-0. They can basically say goodnight to their season. This is a game. The San Antonio Spurs, as Duncan goes out, Thomas back in. The Spurs are fighting for their lives here tonight.
Yeah, no team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. Hard enough to climb out of a 2-0 hole.
Julian Wright is in now for New Orleans, taking the place of Stojakovic, the rookie out of Kansas. A great athlete, a lot of energy, good defender. West got it.
That is a self-made player because I covered him a ton at Xavier. And folks, he didn't have a 15-foot jump shot. He didn't have anything beyond 3 or 4 feet from the basket. That's a guy who's just worked hard to complete his game.
An all-star this year, a quiet all-star, averaging better than 19 points, 9 rebounds per game. Manu Ginobili is paying off tonight for the Spurs.
Who's been so aggressive in the service. Something he said in this morning's papers. He said, simply, we have got to attack the basket and be aggressive.
Pargo, as Paul gets a fairly extended rest, longer than the one Parker got. West driving on Thomas, and he's fouled. As we mentioned, if New Orleans wins tonight, the Spurs would face a 3-0 deficit. No team in the NBA has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit. The Red Sox a few years back against the Yankees, the only team to do it, and it's happened twice in NHL history, but the numbers say it all. It's in the Spurs' best interest to win here tonight.
Go ahead and rub that in for a Yankees fan. It's killing me.
Melvin Eli getting some early minutes. Had a big offensive rebound earlier, and now a putback here.
Well, you should notice one thing. They are substituting more liberally than the Spurs, so that third period differential may come into play again if the Spurs fatigue.
A wide open Michael Finley with a long 2.
Well, Rick Bucher wondered how these guys would respond, the guys around the big 3. Well, Finley has made a couple of threes in this period.
Only one starter in the game right now for the Hornets. It's the man with the ball, David West. The long jumper is true.
Well, that's a difficult check. The last guy who checked him got up tight, so he used the bounce to get by him. That time, Oberto gives him some space, so he simply pulls the trigger. And look at that field goal percentage. Terrific.
West with 8 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. Finley again. This time, it's a 3. Gennaro Pargo driving on Parker. Too strong. Bonzi or Julian Wright, excuse me, there for the offensive rebound and the putback to make it a 2-point game.
Well, Julian Wright's got young legs. That is a tremendous athlete who's only going to get better with repetition. He's giving them good minutes, Dan.
And a guy the first 30 or so games of the season, Doris, hardly played, but he's become a real factor late in the year. New Orleans looking to push. Great play by Finley.
That was a complete and utter. Pargo just sold it too early.
Bonzi Wells goes right around Kurt Thomas and lays it in.
No back down from the Hornets.
Timeout. Tied at 33 as the Spurs use a timeout. Off to a good start here in San Antonio. Tied at 33. Tied at 33 here in the second quarter. The Hornets lead the series 2-0. A year ago, with Peja Stojakovic missing 69 games, David West 30, Chris Paul 18, the Hornets were a sub-500 team. Knowing his team had to be healthier this year, we asked Byron Scott what his expectations were heading into the season.
I told one of my assistant coaches, Coach Walker, I'm watching our guys in September, 2 weeks before training camp, and they're out there just playing. And I said, man, I think we can win 55 to 60 games. And he said, oh, Coach, that's that's a lot of wins. I don't know. Let's just stick to about 45 or something. I said, 45 won't get us in the playoffs. I said, 50 plus get us a first round home court advantage. So I really felt good about what I was seeing, and I felt that all the injuries that we had last year made us stronger. And I also knew if we stayed healthy, we were going to have a pretty good year.
Did you tell Daryl how far you envisioned going to the playoffs back in September?
I did, but I'm not going to tell you guys.
So he's not going to give out all his secrets, but he thought they might win 55 to 60 games. They won 56. Coach Darrell Walker, one of his assistants, the man that Byron Scott shared that information with back in September. The only team that had a bigger improvement in the number of wins this year than the Hornets, the Boston Celtics, who set an NBA record by improving by 42 wins. But the Hornets, a team, even through the entire season, Doris, had doubters. They're too young. They don't have a deep enough bench. When the playoffs hit, it'll be different. So far, none of that has come to pass.
Yeah, Chris Paul is third in the NBA in assist-to-turnover ratio. He does not give it up, Dan.
Bonzi Wells helping the Hornets bench. New Orleans takes the lead.
And they're a better defensive team than I think people have given them credit for. And certainly they've played solid defense in this series.
Well, it's something Byron Scott's very proud of. They're a running team. A lot of possessions. They get the ball up and down the floor. They were 5th in the NBA in points allowed during the regular season as Thomas off the feed from Parker ties it up. And for Parker, 6 assists already.
That is his shot right there. And if you give Kurt Thomas that baseline jump shot from either side, he is going to make it.
Paul and Pargo in the backcourt together now for the Hornets. Eli spins to the baseline. Look at Pargo's sky for it, almost come down to the offensive board. Parker pushing, and Paul reaches in and commits the foul, his second, and now having to control his emotions, doesn't want to pick up a tee. Thomas and Ginobili out. Bowen comes back. Brent Berry comes in as you check out the foul call.
That's one. He is absolutely beat. So you've got to rely on your rotations. He's too valuable to the team to give away a foul in that particular instance.
So it's Parker, Bowen, Finley, Berry, and Duncan in the game right now for San Antonio as the ball stays with the Spurs.
The activity of New Orleans throughout the first couple of games and even here tonight. How many times have we seen their activity stretching, stripping the basketball?
Well, and Tyson Chandler, Julian Wright, Gennaro Pargo, they've got some awfully athletic people they can put out there on the floor.
Good team speed.
Bowen having trouble finding somebody. Bowen in the other corner, knocks it down.
That was something Greg Popovich said. We asked him the adjustments. He said, well, a couple of things, but really it's about playing better. We've gotten good shots.
A zone look now from San Antonio. Offensive rebound, Chandler. One of the problems with playing a zone. Woo! Chandler with another high percentage look. You can see how a guy shoots 62% during the season.
Yeah, you see that the checkout responsibilities are not as clear. And you're right, it's easier to offensive rebound when your opponent is in a zone.
And we'll see if that drives Greg Popovich right back out of that zone. Finley open in the corner. The shots are falling tonight for the Spurs.
They're sticking with that zone, up 4. But those were the shots early in this game they were missing. Now they're making.
Paul, a great drive. Wright misses the jam. And who's there for the offensive rebound but Paul? Wright knocks it down. A nice, soft turnaround jumper by the rookie.
Well, how quick to the basketball is New Orleans? And I mean on both sides, Dan, offensively and defensively. They are quick in their reactions.
And they got into the teeth of that zone pretty easily twice on that last possession. Duncan has been double-teamed almost constantly in this series. Follows his own miss and is fouled by Chandler. The Spurs are down 2-0 in the series and on the ropes. The Hornets are given as good as they get here tonight.
ESPN's presentation of the NBA playoffs. Brought to you by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Mark Jones back in the studio with this SportsCenter Right Now update. What in the name of Gordie Howe and Stevie Eisenman happened tonight? Well, Detroit in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals defeats the Dallas Stars by a score of 4-1 to take a 1-0 series lead. And the Boston Celtics in a game seen earlier tonight here on ESPN, they defeat Cleveland. Paul Pierce bounced back with 19 points after a poor Game 1. LeBron just 6 of 24 from the field. Back to you, Dan.
All right, Jonesy, thank you. Let's take a look now at tonight's Wendy's quality matchup. We look at the 4 playoff series going right now in the NBA. You mentioned, Mark, the Celtics win again tonight. The Pistons and the Magic. Doris and I and Rick will have that one Saturday from Orlando. The big question, will Chauncey Billups play with that hamstring problem? The Lakers and Jazz tomorrow night on ESPN from Salt Lake City. And a game 4 of this series from right here in San Antonio Sunday night on TNT. The question is, will it be 3-0 Hornets or will it be 2-1 if the Spurs can pull off a win here tonight?
No road team has won in the second round, and obviously the Boston Celtics were unable to get a road win in the first round. Can they get one against the Cavaliers?
Tim Duncan to the line now for San Antonio after the foul by Chandler. The Spurs with a 2-point lead midway through the second. Visit NBA.com where you can jump right into the 2008 playoffs now at NBAstore.com. There you can find the best selection of team jerseys, hats, T-shirts, and more. NBAstore.com. Every team, one store. Too much milling about after that first free throw. Duncan takes long enough to settle in and take his free throw. We don't need any further delays. He freezes and waits and waits. And back rims it. 1 of 2. And Pargo with the rebound. Paul is in there right now for New Orleans. Parker is not for San Antonio. Ginobili covering Stojakovic. Bruce Bowen, who was suspended this year for a kick on Chris Paul, is defending Paul at the moment. Nice look away and the scoop. Beautiful.
That is ridiculous. I mean, that ability to change pace, freeze a 4-time first team all defensive, and Bruce Bowen is extraordinary.
You asked a lot of people about Kobe winning the MVP. Nobody's got a problem with him, but I think everybody thinks that Chris Paul's time is coming.
Yes, no question.
Kobe Bryant, a sensational season, winning his first MVP award, officially announced a couple of days ago. Paul, the runner-up. Ginobili with 2 on the shot clock. Can he save it? Yes, he can. A good, smart play by Finley to hustle back, knowing Ginobili needed some help.
A terrific hustle. But Manu Ginobili, he came in 4 of 14 from 3. He's struggling. You wonder about that left ankle.
He is grimacing. He is favoring it a little bit this time down the floor. Duncan misses with the left hand. Well, as Rick Bucher mentioned, Ginobili about 80%, maybe a little bit less than that right now. Stojakovic, the miss, and the foul on Tim Duncan, a loose ball foul. And we have multiple changes coming now.
Manu Ginobili hurt this ankle in the Phoenix series. He said it's been hard to push off that left ankle. Now he's got a plant on it. And immediately comes up grimacing.
He stays in the game, at least for the moment. Parker came in, but Ginobili is not the Spur who went to the bench. Now here comes Alberto. And Finley will come out. So Ginobili will be left to try to play through it.
And his game is all about aggression. And to do that as a left-hander, he pushes off that left foot. That's where he gets that quick first explosive step.
Chris Paul, 16 points already tonight.
Peja Stojakovic has his hands full with Bowen.
Knocks down a jumper with Bowen right in his face.
That is as good a defense as you can play.
Stojakovic again played only 13 games last year. Back trouble. This year led the NBA in three-point percentage. Bowen open for 3. And the rebound to Chandler. Paul always probing, finds an open David West, who knocks down the 17-footer yet again.
He says, my goal is to be a threat from everywhere on the floor. And I'll tell you what, from everywhere inside the three-point line. He has turned himself into exactly that.
He had a 30-point game in game 1 of this series. Paul had a 30-point game in game 2. Ginobili, bad ankle and all, misses the J. And Tony Parker's got it. Ginobili's going to get another look.
Looks like he had a word for himself after he made that shot.
Giving it everything he can. Moved into the starting lineup tonight and playing on a recently aggravated bad ankle. We are tied at 45. No call on the contact. West knocks down the jumper. Byron Scott furious that Oberto wasn't called for the foul. Oberto thought he got run into by Chris Paul.
But how about David West? This is a guy who in high school almost gave up the game.
He's got 12 on the night, 8 of them here in the second quarter. Looking for Duncan. Ginobili now. And he is bumped. I think it'll be Morris Peterson. Boy, emotions are running high here in the building tonight. Manu Ginobili playing with a bad ankle, knowing how desperately his team needs him here tonight. It's been a great game from the moment it began. Ginobili's got a dozen. Finley's knocking down shots, and the Spurs are hanging with the Hornets.
El NBA on ESPN. Go Spurs, go!
Well, they love their Spurs here in San Antonio. Why not? 4 NBA championships in the last 9 years, and more great NBA action coming your way tomorrow night right here on ESPN and ESPN HD at 9 Eastern to Game 3 between the Lakers and Jazz from always rocking Salt Lake City. 2 games on Saturday night. First on ESPN, Game 4 between the Pistons and the Magic. Will Chauncey Billups play? And then Boston and Cleveland in Game 3 of that series at 8 Eastern on ABC. What a night for Chris Paul and David West. Right now, statistically, handily outplaying Tony Parker and Tim Duncan. Tony Parker was red hot in the first quarter. Tim Duncan, though, has struggled again, Doris. 2 of 7 for 5 points so far.
Well, every time he catches a basketball, there's a double team. His best option is to get deep post position. It becomes more difficult to check him. Everything starts with Chris Paul for the New Orleans Hornets. But how about the stat line for David West? 12 points on 6 of 9 shooting, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. The guy is filling it up tonight.
And for the Spurs, this series may come down to, can the complementary players knock down the open shots the Hornets are giving them when they double team Tim Duncan? A guy like Robert Horry, who has just come into the game, has played sparingly this year, but in the playoffs has dealt with some injuries. He picks up the foul, his first. We've seen Michael Finley knock down some shots. Brent Barry was in there. It may come down to players 10, 11, and 12 in this San Antonio team to see if they've got a shot.
Well, terrific point. And Brent Barry, obviously one of those guys with a terrific jump shot. He played well in a 4th period in Game 2, which was pretty much decided. But Finley has got 4 threes.
Horry, another foul. They want to send Chandler to the line, 59% on the regular season. Coming up, the Toyota halftime show. We'll go back to the studio. Mark Jones, Stephen A. Smith, John Barry. How did Boston shut down LeBron again? The latest on Chauncey Billups with a bad hamstring. And are the Knicks interested in Mike D'Antoni? The word is they sure are. And they're willing to throw some heavy cash at him. We'll find out more at halftime. Parker slowed down by Paul. Horry's gone back to the bench, just in there to commit the fouls. Parker, no call. Parker still down, got tangled up with Duncan. 5 on 3. Paul is fouled.
We had 2 Spurs who got tangled up, didn't make it up the floor. So the numbers for Chris Paul. And he has been aggressive off the double team on the catch. When he takes it from Duncan, he's attacked the rim. Good rotation by Chandler. There's the no call. These 2 guys get tangled, and therefore the numbers on the opposite end for the Hornets.
Ginobili the foul, his second, as Parker pleads his case with veteran official Bob Delaney. Now Ginobili gets his 2 cents in.
This is a guy, and I said it to start the game, he is not traditionally a high assist guy. He's got 7 already. He's typically around 6 for the game. In fact, on the year, Tony Parker averaged just at 6 assists.
Meanwhile, Chris Paul continues to pour it on. 18 points and 4 assists in the first half for Paul. Duncan is the double team coming. Here comes Peterson. Parker penetrates and drops in the floater. That's about the 5th teardrop tonight for Tony Parker. Again knocked down and late getting back on D. Stojakovic for 3.
He has lit it up from 3, and he's especially dangerous in transition. Because of the way Chris Paul can attack the rim, he just spots up beyond the arc, spreads the defense.
First 3 of the night for the Hornets. It's going to be New Orleans ball out of bounds off the Spurs. The crowd booing for the second time in a row down at that end of the floor for the lack of a call. New Orleans, the young team on the road. They have not appeared to have been rattled at any point. Took an 8-0 lead in this game as Morris Peterson knocks down the 3.
Well, Mo Pete has been terrific as well. And you talk about the big 3 for this team. Stojakovic, Paul, and West. But the complementary guys have been terrific.
Morris Peterson, 9 of 12 shooting the ball in this series. The Spurs can hold for the last shot. Bowen, a good look at a 3. Got it. Still some time. Almost stolen by Ginobili. Is he tricky?
He's got a little junk in his game, doesn't he? Give you a little bit of everything.
The Hornets up 2-0 in the series. Peterson, it's going to be an over and back. Sure is. He caught it in the front court and then stepped into the back court. That's the first turnover of the quarter for either team. And San Antonio will have just less than a second to try to get a shot off, and Greg Popovich will use a timeout.
Here, check with the official while they're inbounded, which is right about in front of our broadcast position.
4-point lead Hornets. Back in San Antonio, whether they win or lose tonight, you have to hand it to the New Orleans Hornets, a young team without a lot of playoff experience, not looking phased at all by playing on the road in this environment.
I think that's a reflection of their leader, and that's Chris Paul. This is a guy who is not intimidated in any way, shape, or form. He does say, first couple minutes of the game, he's out of breath, but he seems to settle in pretty quickly.
Ginobili gets a look and hits it!
We've got to change that.
Manu Ginobili started the game. Will start the second half as well for San Antonio, and it paid off with Ginobili, bad ankle and all. There was a whistle before that shot, scoring 16 points in the first half. The third quarter has been a disaster in this series for San Antonio. As you check out the first half stats for San Antonio's big 3, Tim Duncan, of course, missed some pretty good looks early in the game. What do the Spurs have to do to get him going?
Well, he missed shots he normally makes. He was 2 for 7. I think the better post position he gets, the deeper he gets, the less chance they have for those quick doubles.
And again, when they double him, they turn him into a passer. He found Bowen, but Bowen missed the 3. Michael Finley came in off the bench tonight, hit 3 big threes for San Antonio in the first half. Here's the third quarter story we talked about. New Orleans literally demolishing San Antonio in the third quarter of each of the first 2 games, turning what were close games into one-sided affairs.
65-35, they've outscored them.
West the miss, Duncan the rebound in traffic. Yeah. Duncan just 5 points in the first game, 18 in the second, 5 at halftime here tonight. No double yet, here it comes. Ginobili driving on Peterson, lays it in.
You have got to sit down on his shot fakes. He does a terrific job of getting that initial defender off their feet.
How about that stop on a dime, change of direction, and then beautiful feed to Chandler. Chris Paul doing it all.
And he is just extraordinary at the basketball. He's got it in his hands so much. He's almost like Steve Nash in that he can keep his dribble in a lot of tight spots.
Now with 92 assists and 9 turnovers in the playoffs. And again, he's 23, and this is the first time he's ever played in the postseason. Tony Parker. Ginobili will take it this time. Rebound Peterson. Again, the change tonight as the foul is on Parker, with Ginobili starting, Bowen moving on to Stojakovic, Parker moving on to Paul. Parker didn't have a whole lot of success defending Chris Paul in the first half.
Chris Paul going a little Manu Ginobili with that cell. Parker a little bit frustrated with the call. He's hard enough to guard. The officials don't have to help him.
Paul using the Chandler screen. West one-on-one with Thomas. And Thomas called for the foul. Not a popular call. The crowd, the Spurs, thought it was a clean block. Greg Popovich surveying the situation. Number 2 on Thomas. The crowd getting a look at the replay, and that gives them a chance to start booing all over again. On the NBA calendar on Saturday, it'll be Boston and Cleveland, Game 3 Saturday night, 8 Eastern on ABC. Sunday afternoon, Game 4 between the Lakers and Utah, also on ABC. Sunday night on TNT, these two teams, New Orleans and San Antonio, for the Game 4. Monday night, Boston and Cleveland, with coverage beginning at 8 Eastern. Boston defeating Cleveland by 16 earlier tonight to take a 2-0 lead in that series. LeBron James struggled again.
Tom Thibodeau, so much has been made of his influence on the Celtics on the defensive side.
Parker trying to post inside and travels.
Greg Popovich, 3rd all-time in winning percentage. He has been extraordinary. 4 titles.
And away from the ball, I think it's Kurt Thomas again. Number 3 on Thomas. Thomas pleading his case now with Bill Kennedy, the official who made the call. Thomas out and Fabricio Alberto in. A 2-0 lead in the series for New Orleans. Rarely has a team come back from a 2-0 deficit. Only 6% of the time in NBA history. Never has a team come back from a 3-0 deficit. West gets open for the jumper. Rebound Duncan. Parker, the pull-up jumper. Got it.
That was easy. Chris Paul gets hung up on the screen. When you see a pick and roll coming, if you're Chris Paul and you're guarding Tony Parker, a lot of guys go under. You want to take a step up?
Duncan read the play, sniffed out the lob. Parker, yes!
That is Tony Parker at his best. That is how he was the MVP of the finals. And it looks like Chris Paul, as he came up the floor, it looked like he was almost holding his stomach with his left hand.
Look at that move. Cannot finish, draws the foul. But again, Doris, a head fake, just a quick turn, a little shoulder dip, and he'll send defenders scurrying every which way. Number 2 on Parker.
Yeah, Greg Popovich said it's organized playground basketball. It is pretty to watch with these 2-point guards. This has been an entertaining basketball game.
Parker 16 and 8. Paul 18 and 7. Make it 19. The first player since John Stockton 16 years ago to lead the league in assists and steals. The first player in 15 years since Tim Hardaway did it to average 20 points and 10 assists in a season. Truly historic stuff for a guy in just his 3rd year in the league.
Yeah, he's got a little nasty to him like John Stockton did too.
Foul on the floor.
And I mean that with the utmost respect. A little nastiness on the basketball floor is not a bad thing.
Number 3 on Peterson. And of course, Paul played at the same college as Tim Duncan did, both at Wake Forest, several years apart, different coaches. Paul played for the same collegiate coach as his teammate David West did. West at Xavier, Paul at Wake Forest, both under the late Skip Prosser. Tim Duncan played at Wake under Dave Odom. First field goal for Duncan since 4:45 left in the first quarter.
That one looked like he got into his move before the double came. That should be an offensive foul, or is it on Bowen?
It's on Bowen, and I think you're right. I think a lot of people thought it might go on Stojakovic.
A lot of times it's the reactionary foul that's called, and Stojakovic might have been reacting, and so it might be a good piece of officiating.
And San Antonio over the limit already. Free throws the rest of the quarter for the Hornets. And the best free throw shooter in the league this year at the line in Stojakovic.
Now, people wonder, would Peja Stojakovic ever get back to the kind of player he was early in his career? With back problems a year ago.
And again, Stojakovic, as you mentioned, missed 69 games a year ago. West missed 30. Paul missed 18. New Orleans was 39 and 43 a year ago, not in the playoffs. A 17-game improvement this season. The number 2 seed in the West at 56 and 26. Parker. Travel again. He worked so hard to create some space and get his man in the air, and was called for traveling for the 3rd time tonight. Paul sheds him, gets by Duncan and scoops it in.
That is special, folks. That is around one of the best defensive players in the league, and Tim Duncan just stretches out as he gets near the rack.
22 for Paul. 4-point lead for the Hornets. Timeout, San Antonio.
ESPN's presentation of the NBA playoffs. Brought to you by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
Well, a very emotional story that has come to involve Chris Paul and the New Orleans Hornets this week. A critically ill young boy known only as Brian, 8 years old, who was a huge Chris Paul fan, wore his CP3 jersey all the time, was granted a wish from a Child's Wish of New Orleans, a charity there, to meet Chris Paul. The Hornets had arranged for Brian to come down and see the game on a Monday. Brian was suffering from cancer on Monday morning, became critically ill, developed a high fever, was rushed to the hospital, and passed away. That only his first name, Brian, is being given out of respect for the family. Chris Paul never had a chance to meet Brian, has written Brian's name on his shoes tonight. A moment, an association with this young boy that has pretty much overwhelmed Chris Paul.
Out of all the things that I think I've experienced as a professional athlete, it had to be the most touching story. To hear that Brian just wanted to wear my jersey, said he wanted to wear his CP3 jersey. So it's not for any recognition, you know. It's for the family, and I know Brian will be watching the game tonight in heaven. So I just wanted to write his name on my shoes, because even though I never got an opportunity to meet him, you know, it's pretty special to know that I had some form of impact on his life.
The funeral was today in the greater New Orleans area. Otherwise, Chris Paul would have gone to the funeral, and it still sounds like he may meet the family at some point. Remember, this is a young man, and we already talked about his collegiate coach, Skip Prosser, who died of a heart ailment a couple of years ago. He was incredibly close with Coach P, as he calls him. And folks who have followed Paul's career will be familiar with the story of his grandfather, another very, very important person in his life, dying when he was in high school at the age of 61. That night, Chris Paul went out and scored 61 points in a high school game, and then took himself out of the game. And his new shoe, the CP3, honors Skip Prosser, honors his grandfather, and now, although Chris Paul never met Brian, it sounds like he will meet the family, and he is deeply touched by the sentiment that this young boy had for him.
For an extraordinarily gifted young man, he's got a maturity about him that belies his years, both on and off the floor. Chris Paul is extraordinary.
Stojakovic on the drive, misses the follow. Alberto the rebound for the Spurs. Tony Parker is fouled. Well, you've got 2 point guards. When they decide they want to get somewhere, they're getting there. It has been almost impossible for either team to keep Paul and Parker out of the lane.
Both guys a terrific handle, both guys with explosive speed. They dictate when you stop and start as a defender, and their numbers tonight exceptional.
Parker to the line. The foul on Morris Peterson, his fourth. He'll sit down, and Gennaro Pargo returns for the Hornets. Pargo has been a nice story for New Orleans this year. Undrafted out of Arkansas, bounced around from team to team, but has found a home with New Orleans. He had a 30-point game in the first round against Dallas and 5 20-plus point games during the regular season.
I thought he gave him terrific energy in the first half. Made a couple of strips on the defensive end.
And Paul can work off the ball just a little bit when Pargo's in there. The crowd chanting defense here to the AT&T Center. Again, Paul uses the screen. Short on the three.
If there's a weak spot in this game, that's it.
Great pass from Ginobili, and Alberto misses a gimme. David West from 19. Paul the offensive rebound.
Terrific job by Tyson Chandler, who couldn't get it himself. Taps it to his teammate.
Now Chandler moving on the screen, called for the foul. Paul goes tumbling over Alberto. It is getting feisty.
And Paul, look at Alberto and Pargo getting in each other's space at this end of the floor. They are still conversing. There is a little shot. Not a ton, but Chris is going to sell it. And Alberto and Pargo, as that ball was getting inbounded, were yapping at each other, Dan.
And now another foul away from the ball. Bill Kennedy with the whistle this time. And the officials are going to try to get control of this game right now before anything escalates.
We'll go back to the defending champion with their back against the wall, going to physically and mentally test a young New Orleans team with limited playoff experience. Byron Scott told Rick Bucher after the first period, we have got to relax. You cannot get engaged with this and allow it to impact your play.
And now we've got a clock situation that Bob Delaney's going to investigate. That's one of the fascinating subplots to this series. You've got the proud veteran championship team try to prove it can do it one more time against the hungry young team. Try to prove to everybody, hey, we're better than you think you are. We're better than you've given us credit for being.
Yeah, 4 titles. They have dominated the league over the last 9 years.
Man, there is a lot of yapping going on out there right now. We talked about Chris Paul, kind of the angel face when you look at him, but put him in the 94 by 50, and he's as tough as anybody out there, and he'll stand up to anybody.
Well, not only will he yap at his opponent, but David West will tell you he will get in his teammate's space, something he was a little bit tentative to do his rookie season, but a natural maturation as a point guard. You have got to be that guy.
All right, they've sorted out the clock. 6:05 of the game clock, 22 on the shot clock. New Orleans leading by 2 and leading the series 2 games to none. Ginobili with a size advantage on Paul. Draws the double team. Wide open in the corner is Bowen.
Boy, Bruce Bowen does a terrific job of making threes. He gives testament to the idea that you do not have to be the most physically gifted guy to have a long career. Do one thing well on the offensive end and guard your backside off. That's what that guy does.
And Tony Parker picked up assist number 9 on that play. It all started with Ginobili posting up on Paul. Paul drifting away from the basket. If there's an inch of open room in the lane, he'll find it.
Hey, this guy is just special. And he's, we're talking about a young guy in his first playoff experience, not showing any signs of being fazed by it.
Only played 2 years at Wake. Only 23 years old. Ginobili over Paul, too strong. West the rebound. Parker on Paul. Bowen's on Stojakovic, and he's held Stojakovic in check most of the night. Paul again, the lob and the slam by Chandler.
See what I mean about pace? Great players, they dictate the pace at which they want to play. You can't speed them up, and you can't slow them down. He is tooling with the basketball.
I don't want to misquote Greg Popovich. You gave the quote earlier today as we get another foul on the floor. Greg Popovich said right now Chris Paul is the best decision maker in the NBA, correct?
Look at this. Just a little change of pace, change my direction, keep my dribble a la Steve Nash, and then let Tyson Chandler, one of the best athletes on the floor, go get it.
Number 4 on Chandler. And the Hornets over the limit. Ginobili to the line. Paul with 24 points and 8 assists tonight. On the NBA calendar on ABC Saturday, playoff coverage continues with Boston and Cleveland in Game 3. That's on Saturday night. Sunday, ABC's got the Lakers and Utah Game 4. TNT Sunday night. This series, the Hornets and Spurs in Game 4. We're here in San Antonio. But Monday night, it'll be Boston and Cleveland again with coverage beginning at 8 o'clock. Saturday night, I'm sorry, Doris, here on ESPN, you and I and Rick will have Detroit at Orlando. Game 4 of that series. Everybody wondering if Chauncey Billups will be able to answer the bell.
Well, after a shaky couple of minutes for Rodney Stuckey when he filled in, he was terrific.
West again. New Orleans is not going away, not backing down, playing in a hostile environment against the defending champs, and trading punches blow by blow with the Spurs.
And Tim Duncan pleading his case.
You know, even back in the regular season when these two teams met, they split 4 games. In the 2 New Orleans wins, one was by 24, one was by 25, and the 24-point win was here.
Yes.
The Hornets have hung some of the worst losses the Spurs have had, hung on them all season.
And they said that was a monumental win for them. It proved they could play with anybody.
West working on Alberto. Fadeaway jumper, no. Finley taps it, gets it back. The double again on Duncan. Parker driving on Pargo, and a late whistle and a foul call. Pargo called for the block, his first. Parker to the line. And as we mentioned, let's check out some of the most lopsided losses for the Spurs this year. Now, granted, they played them extra because of the playoffs, but look at how handily New Orleans has beaten San Antonio at times this year.
They're young, they're athletic, they're hungry. And Byron Scott, when we interviewed him yesterday, what did he say? He talked about the fact that of the 10 experts, and he cited ESPN, he said, I think 9 of them picked the Spurs. He said, that's great motivation for our guys, and coaches will use whatever motivation they can.
The more that he hears, they're too young. They don't have a great bench. They're not quite ready. The more he uses that to motivate and fuel his team. Remember, Byron Scott, of course, the guy with a ton of championship experience, won 3 NBA titles with the Lakers back in the 80s. West again. Pargo steps in, misses the elbow jumper. San Antonio can reclaim the lead.
Well, that looked like a Spurs possession with a double and then the extra passing.
Parker. Finley. Duncan with a great rebound in traffic. No double team, and he is fouled. And count it. They're going to count it.
That got Byron Scott up off his seat. He is upset.
The fans are on their feet here in San Antonio. Tim Duncan has given the Spurs the lead.
Mark Jones in the studio with his Taco Bell update. The Boston Celtics, as you saw earlier tonight on ESPN, defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers 89-73. Paul Pierce with a big night. He had 19. The bench helped out. KG had 13. But the question still begs, can the best team in basketball win a road game, Dan, in the playoffs?
Well, right now, the young New Orleans Hornets, Mark, are trying to win a road game here in San Antonio in what has been an intense and hard-fought affair for the moment. They tipped it off a couple of hours ago. More great action coming your way tomorrow night here on ESPN. Kobe and the Lakers taking on the Jazz at Game 3 tomorrow night, 9 Eastern on ESPN and ESPN HD. And then the NBA playoffs continue on ESPN and ABC Saturday night at 5 Eastern. Game 4 between the Pistons and the Magic, followed by the Celtics and Cavaliers on ABC with, as Mark mentioned, Boston leading that series 2 games to none.
Jazz 37-4 at home in the regular season. Best home record in the NBA. They have a tendency to physically dominate you. They're a very tough-minded physical basketball team, but nowhere more so than at home.
Another foul away from the ball. Is it Duncan? Duncan and Stojakovic now having a conversation. It's Bowen that called for the foul, number 3 on him.
Now that's the first foul, remember. New Orleans went into the penalty with 8:27 on the clock. This is the first foul shot they've had since then. That's the mark of a veteran team. You put yourself in a bad position by giving your opponent free throws, then you guard without fouling until this point.
Stojakovic is mentioned the best free throw shooter in the league during the regular season. And a guy who had 22 points in game 1, 25 points in game 2. Quieted it tonight. The defensive Bowen gets a lot of the credit for that. Missed it. We've now had 7 lead changes and 10 ties in this game. The biggest lead for New Orleans has been 8. The biggest lead for San Antonio has been 4.
And what do you do in that instance? You spread the floor and you allow Tony Parker to go one-on-one with Pargo because this guy is impossible to contain. You give him a step or a little bit of room to get his momentum going. I don't think you can keep Tony Parker in front of you.
Ginobili back in for Bowen. Ginobili again inserted into the starting lineup tonight by Greg Popovich, looking for a spark, and he's got 20 points. 1 of 2 for Parker.
This may be the first third period in 3 games where the Spurs are able to outscore the New Orleans Hornets. They've been dominated in this period.
Parker, or Paul rather, baseline off to Melvin Ely. Fading away from the basket, made that shot a little tougher than it was. Duncan with good defense. Oberto. Duncan. Pretty basketball. Duncan back to the line. David West, his second.
One of the things Rick Bucher talked to Greg Popovich about, Pop said they've made better decisions. So this is what he was talking about. Good passing, hitting the open man, and a lot of that created still by the dribble penetration of Tony Parker.
Duncan very short. Just 9 points tonight. Just 32 points in 3 games in this series.
This is a first ballot Hall of Famer, a 3-time Finals MVP, a 2-time regular season MVP, just to give those numbers some perspective. This is un-Duncan-like.
Missed it again very short, grazed the rim on both, and we've got a lane violation against Melvin Ely. Duncan against Phoenix, remember, had that monster game 1, had a terrific series, but as Rick mentioned, under the weather, had a fever during game 1 and into game 2, says he feels much better now, but the Hornets are still making him work for every inch of real estate out there.
This is a no excuses team, though. They reflect Popovich, just like the Utah Jazz reflect Jerry Sloan. I'm anxious to see how the Utah Jazz, those are old school guys.
With a lane violation, cost the Hornets a point. 2 minutes to go in the third. Paul, no. Oberto, the rebound.
Be really anxious in the 4th period to see if Chris Paul looks to score himself or to distribute the basketball, because he took over the first period.
Parker blows by Pargo, switches hands and lays it in.
That's very special. He just has a unique ability to explode to the rim and get close.
So Parker 23 and 9, and that goes in. These 2 point guards are putting on an unbelievable show.
That was Michael Jordan-esque. Wow, here are the 2 spectacular point guards. Last year's Finals MVP ducks under 2 New Orleans defenders. Not 1, 2. Then off the screen and roll, you go under, the crossover, and the circus shot.
Oh my.
That is unbelievable.
I think play of the day is taken care of on SportsCenter tonight.
That's top. That's got to be number 1.
Yeah. So Parker 23 and 9, Paul 27 and 8. A phenomenal effort by both point guards tonight. Oberto.
It's got to be a hold, yeah.
Yeah. Eli with a hold. Duncan will go back to the line. Duncan missed a couple last time. Then after a lane violation on Eli, knocked down the gift free throw. The first two that he missed badly. Left him way short.
Yeah, he does take an awful lot of time to get into his routine.
Got it. Got a friendly roll.
They say one of the most important things to do, what good free throw shooters do, more conversation here in the middle of the lane, is to do the same thing over and over. And Tim Duncan does do that. It's just strange how he holds the ball.
He just does it a little bit slower than anybody else. Two big free throws. A dozen for Duncan.
It would be easy to violate the lane because Duncan would take you out of your rhythm as a rebounder.
Paul steps into the jumper. He's got two more. He has used high screens by the bigs time and time again. 29 for Chris Paul.
He gets so open off of those screens. Let's give some credit to his big man.
Oh, that is sweet. Alberto to Duncan.
That's how to avoid a double team.
I'll tell you, this has been, if you're just tuning in, if you haven't been with us all night, it's been like this from the moment it began. Paul looking for West. In traffic. 3 to shoot. And Julian Wright's shot will be waved off. It's a 3-second violation. The basket does not count.
So a couple mistakes by Byron Scott's young team. The lane violation, that gives up a point. Then the 3-second call there.
Parker speeds into the front court. 30 seconds left in the third. Ginobili lays it in.
That is one of the things the Spurs have always done. You make mistakes, they make you pay.
Largest lead of the night for San Antonio. Deafening noise. Right. San Antonio will take a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter in a game that is a virtual must-win for them, trailing the series 2 games to none. Chris Paul, Tony Parker putting on an unbelievable show. 12 minutes to go.
Welcome back. I'm here with Coach Popovich. Such a dramatic difference from the previous two third quarters. If you had to pinpoint one thing that made the difference, what was it?
I think it's just being a little more physical, a little bit more aggressive. The physicality has hurt us in the past, and I thought we did a better job today in the third quarter.
Being in the situation that you are now, how does this change the way you handle the fourth quarter?
Well, hopefully we'll play with the same physical intensity.
Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Now, by far their best effort in the third quarter so far in this series, getting outscored by a huge amount in both Game 1 and Game 2, but +7 on the Hornets in the third quarter tonight, closing the third on a 14-6 run. Chris Paul, Tony Parker, absolutely sensational the entire night here tonight. Tim Duncan starting to get it going, up to 14 points and 10 rebounds. San Antonio, this 5-point lead, its largest lead of the game right now. The Spurs down 2-0, trying to avoid falling into a hole that no NBA team has ever been able to climb out of. Wright strong to the hoop. Good 2-man game. And that's something Chris Paul's been on Julian Wright about. He's an all-league athlete. When you get the ball, go up there, make a highlight, go up there and throw it down.
Well, he has had an impact on this series, right, in limited minutes. You're right. I mean, he's just tremendously athletic. As he rounds out his game, he will be a handful.
Wright played 2 seasons at Kansas, the 13th overall pick this past summer. 25 times this year. He either dressed but didn't play or was inactive. But as the season got deeper and deeper and he got better and better and started understanding the offense and so forth, he became a factor off the bench, a bench that was looking for another contributor.
He doesn't have a skill that he can hang his hat on. His best attribute are his athleticism and instincts. He's got to use those.
Ginobili off to Duncan, back to Finley for 3. And the rebound to Bonzi Wells. Paul in the game, Parker on the bench. Bowen defending Paul. Again the screen. Again the jumper.
Remember what I said with about a minute and a half to play? How would he come out in this period? He took over the scoring load in the first period. He had 14 points and 5 of 7 shooting. I wonder if he's going to be that aggressive here in the fourth.
31 for Chris Paul. Oberto's made some nice passes in this game tonight. Ginobili's got a chance for a 4-point play.
See, I don't know how people could say the Spurs aren't fun to watch. Manu Ginobili is a terrific player to watch. A mistake here on the closeout. It is a very hard thing to close out under control and contest a jump shooter. Bonzi, a mistake there, trying to be too assertive with his contest.
And Ginobili, bad ankle and all, has 26 points in this game. An ankle injury that he aggravated in the first half tonight. Trying to post Bonzi Wells on Ginobili. Jumper off the glass and good to quiet the crowd.
He is one of the better post-up guys at his size in the league. I love how the New Orleans Hornets are not backing down.
Wright knocks it out of bounds. It'll stay with San Antonio. Plenty of time to shoot. Tony Parker getting a rest. Has had a terrific night with 23 points and 10 assists. Chris Paul is 2 assists away, this is hard to believe, from his 4th 30-10 game of the playoffs. It'll be 4 in 8 games if he gets 2 more assists. Ginobili feeling it. Got it! David West, another jumper. And it's a 4-point game. Every time one of these teams makes a play at one end, the other team comes right back.
There's a spirit and a toughness about this New Orleans team that you wouldn't expect from such a young club.
Duncan, a triple team, and he turns it over. Wright's tough in transition. Tried to dump it off. It'll stay with New Orleans. The ruling is it's off Duncan as the Spurs protest.
Terrific job by these officials because this has been chippy at times. It's been physical. Greg Popovich in the interview with Rick talked about the physical nature of this one.
And you know what? All things considered, the turnovers are low. The Spurs have 10. The Hornets have 8. This game has been played at an exceedingly high level tonight. Wells to inbound. West spins to the baseline. 2 more for David West.
Again, this is a guy who came into the league with a limited jump shot. He had all the back-to-the-basket skills. Now can go off the bounce.
Oberto with a tough catch in traffic. Ginobili. Again? Not this time. Ginobili's already got a 4-point play and then another 3-pointer in the last couple of minutes. Parker's back for the Spurs. Paul. West leans in. Everything but the finish. He wanted the foul.
Terrific move, though. Excellent patience. Takes the contact, keeps his pivot down.
He better be careful or he won't be underrated for much longer. He's an all-star and he's playing like it. The ball back to New Orleans. A 2-point game. A seesaw affair the entire night. Paul to step back, Jay. Rebound, Ginobili. Nice pass to Parker. Parker hits his head on the court, it looks like, on the way down.
Bonzi Wells really slow to get up the floor. It looks like he took a shot from Parker as Parker went to the rim.
Ball turns the corner. Bonzi Wells from 18. Good box out there by the Spurs. No yellow jersey near the ball.
And Bonzi Wells always feels better on the offensive end.
Yes. Timeout, San Antonio. What a basketball game here tonight. The Spurs down 2-0 in the series, up by 4.
ESPN's presentation of the NBA playoffs. Brought to you by GMC. We are professional grade. And vitamin water. It works for Shaq.
Sports Center right now update. Arizona's Brandon Webb tonight with a complete game win. An 8-3 win against Philadelphia. Had 4 strikeouts, no walks. Great control by Webb tonight. He now improves to 8-0 on the season. Meanwhile, on the 94-by-50 piece of hardwood, Kevin Garnett and the Boston Celtics. Great passing, great defense against LeBron James. Great bench, Sam Cassell in the victory, 89-73 to go 2-0 against Cleveland. Dan?
And Mark, the Hornets are up 2-0 on San Antonio, the 4-time NBA champs, 99, 03, 05, and last season trying to defend their title. It has been a remarkable run for San Antonio ever since the arrival of Tim Duncan, coinciding with the head coaching job of Greg Popovich, the most successful team in the NBA by a wide margin, by any stretch of the imagination over the last 11 years. But in some trouble here in round 2, down 2 games to none, and in a slugfest tonight, trying to pull out game 3 here on their home court.
Well, unlike the first 2 games, tonight they finished the second quarter with a 5-0 run, the third quarter with a 14-6 run, and their playoff lives, their ability to defend their title, will depend on their ability to close this period the way they did the second and third.
Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, Bowen, and Thomas for San Antonio. Chandler West, Paul Wells, and Julian Wright for New Orleans as the Spurs go up by 6.
And what do you notice? It's Manu Ginobili in the thick of all these plays, whether it's him making threes or that pick-and-roll pass. He's terrific. He's always willing to give the basketball up.
Duncan now with 16. Ginobili, 29 points, 4 assists. Duncan with a block. Spur ball. Parker in transition, slows it down. No double team yet. Now here comes Bonzi Wells. Back down to Duncan. They reset in the post. Back out to Ginobili. Great cut by Manu Ginobili and a good find by Thomas.
See what I mean? He is always in the thick of things, always making plays. Great understanding of the game, off the basketball or on the basketball.
You're right, never a bystander.
No.
Always finding some way to help his team. Wells, tough pass. Well, gut check time right now for the Hornets as Byron Scott brings Morris Peterson and Peja Stojakovic back into the game.
Well, Byron Scott's team not showing desperation here. They've been poised all night. They've responded well, but they're not as desperate as the Spurs, and I think you're seeing that difference between these two teams.
Should stay with San Antonio. That's the right call. Stojakovic got his hand in there. Shot clock at 12.
That's the only thing Ginobili doesn't do well. He is a high turnover guy. John Barry had the best description of him. He said he's a daredevil with a little bit of Pistol Pete in him. Those are the kinds of plays. That's a great description.
Ginobili finds Parker. 27 for Tony Parker. 8-0 run, San Antonio. Paul. This is the largest lead of the game for either team. Duncan one-on-one. Not for long. Bowen from the corner. The champs have responded to the challenge here in the second half.
Candace Parker has gone from national champion to the WNBA's #1 pick. In her first game, she'll face the 2007 champion Phoenix Mercury and their all-star Diana Taurasi. Can Parker become the next player to win titles in both leagues? The season debut of the WNBA, Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on ABC.
The San Antonio Spurs care about the community. This season, Bruce Bowen continued to support youth in his community through the Bruce Bowen Foundation. The foundation's highly regarded Get Fit with Bruce and Buddy program enabled Bruce and his sidekick Buddy to teach children and their families about the importance of proper nutrition and regular exercise. The Bruce Bowen Foundation is committed to helping children to be happy, healthy, and productive members of the community. The NBA, where caring happens. And tonight, Mr. Bowen's big contribution to San Antonio. Good defense on Peja Stojakovic, and 4 threes for Bruce Bowen tonight as well, keying a run that has gotten San Antonio out to a 13-point lead.
Again, closing another period strong, something they had not done in the first 2 games. At halftime leads in both of those before losing.
Game 4, Sunday night. 2-0, New Orleans leads the series. Paul with a crossover, got it back. Morris Peterson open. Chandler the tap, but into the hands of Parker. Good patience by the Spurs. Parker sees a seam, and Chandler comes over to erase it. One of the leading shot blockers in the NBA this season. The Hornets, meanwhile, have come up empty at this end of the floor 7 straight times. West gets a jumper off and knocks it down again. A monster night for David West.
Feels like the Spurs have gotten a ton of points from 3 and then also off layups.
It's all been set up either by Parker penetration or by Duncan kicking the ball out of the double team. Ginobili's had his hand in just about everything tonight. Nice pass. Open is Thomas. Manu Ginobili is worth the price of admission.
And he is one of the most entertaining players in the league to watch.
I mean, what does it say about a guy that he comes off the bench, and we all understand the reasons behind it, but it was named today, and justifiably so, 3rd team All-NBA. Finished 9th in the league in MVP balloting. If he gets 40 minutes a game, like some guys do, he puts up huge numbers.
It's amazing he was not named an All-Star, and I don't believe in his career yet he's been on the All-Star team, which is extraordinary for a guy that talented who has contributed so much to the champs.
Foul on Thomas as West knocks it down. And again, one of the moves that Greg Popovich made at the outset of the game tonight was to start Ginobili. Did not start Michael Finley. Finley did well off the bench at 3 threes in the first half, and Ginobili has been one of the key players in this game in every respect.
I think Greg Popovich knew he needed to score tonight. I mean, the San Antonio Spurs are not necessarily a high-powered offensive team. They're not talking about triple digits on a nightly basis. This is not the Phoenix Suns. But because of the Hornets' ability to score the basketball, he believed they had to score tonight.
Duncan with a big second half is up to 16 points and 11 rebounds. Parker the miss. New Orleans looking to push. Paul crosses over on Bowen and finds West, who is fouled.
And this is not anything that they can't overcome, this point differential, not at the pace at which Chris Paul can make this team play.
Number 5 on Kurt Thomas. West back to the line. Another look at the transition. And Paul, again, with the look away, the change of speed, speed,
How about
and the no-look find.
Inside-out dribble between 3 jerseys. And what did he do? He gave him an efficient possession. He didn't use a lot of clock there, Dan.
Greg Popovich spoke about Paul in glowing terms before the game, talking about how sometimes he feels things that he can't see. He understands spacing on the floor, where everybody is. He'll feel a trailer coming from behind. You're worried about West. Here comes Chandler on the secondary break, and he's got nothing but glowing things to say about Paul. 2 big misses for West. The dump down for Duncan. Thomas open again. Great effort by Duncan, and a fresh 24 for the Spurs.
They've gotten a lot of those loose balls tonight, and that is something that New Orleans have dominated in the first 2 games.
By far their best second half of the series. Duncan open. A 12-point deficit for the Hornets. 3:20 to go in the 4th. Oh, wow!
I'll tell you what, there are times where a pitcher can make a batter look foolish. There are a lot of times Chris Paul can make a defender.
And again, with a look of his eyes, with a shoulder, with a crossover, with a change of speed, 33 for Paul. Duncan, beautiful move to get West in the air. And somehow Duncan finds Bowen, and they've got time. Bowen says to Parker, reset.
Bowen's made a lot of those corner jump shots, but understanding a new 24, good decision.
Parker slithers in and scores. Paul at the other end with a reverse, give him 35.
Unstoppable. Both guys, they're going to get where they want to go on the basketball court.
29 and 11 for Parker. Look at the look on his face. 35 and 9 for Paul. They are friends. And they're probably, if you ask them, they'd be the president of each other's fan club right now, the way that each has played tonight. Parker with a jumper. Got it!
The look of disbelief. What's Chris Paul's face as he sticks that jumper?
Paul with a floater. And the rebound brought down by Duncan. Time is running out on New Orleans here tonight. The Spurs down by as many as 8 in the first half as Paul fouls Parker. The Spurs with a very strong second half and great performances really by all 3 of their top stars. Duncan playing great in the second half. Tony Parker and Chris Paul going at it toe-to-toe, 2 of the best point guards in the league.
Both with terrific speeds, both with the ability to change speeds. How about that sleight of hand by Chris Paul? Pretty. But the reaction of the defenders, it's disbelief. But Tony Parker says, well, you give good, I give good. The jumper in the face of his counterpart, Chris Paul. Great stuff.
Mark Jones in the studio with this Born Conspiracy update. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, right here on ESPN, Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers take on the Utah Jazz in Game 3. The Jazz lost only 4 home games all season long. That's the good news. The bad news is one of those losses was to Kobe and the Lakers. Kobe averaging 36 in the series, Dan.
Well, hoping to mark that one's as much fun as this one has been here in San Antonio. Yeah, it's been a dynasty. 4 championships in 9 years for the Spurs and the proud champions not willing to concede anything here tonight. New Orleans played great in the first half, led by as many as 8. Tony Parker, Tim Duncan with a terrific second half. Manu Ginobili with a sensational night all night long. 78 points for the big 3. And the Spurs less than 2 minutes away from picking up their first win of the series.
Now, the best players have got to deliver in these moments, and you would expect nothing else from the 3 guys that have led them to multiple championships.
Game 4, Sunday night. 12-point lead, San Antonio. Paul is out of the game right now for New Orleans. Bowen off the screen. Peterson got a piece of it. Ryan Bowen has come in. Pargo at the point. Eli is in. And Byron Scott has decided to start thinking about Sunday night. Blocked by Duncan. Pargo gets it back. And turns it over. Ime Udoka comes up with the steal. Tony Parker with 31 points and 11 assists, quarterbacking his team to a virtual must-win, or a must-win in a virtual must-win situation here tonight. A 12-point lead. They knew if they got down 3-0, it was over. Bowen's had a big night. Misses this three. You know what? For these two teams, probably a good thing they've got 2 days off before Game 4, the way they play tonight.
It's been a very, very quick pace. Greg Popovich, third all-time in winning percentage. He's got 4 championships. Brent Barry was talking about Coach Popovich. He said there are certain ways that things are communicated to where we just know how important they are. It's this delivery. It's the experience we have. We know what it is that Coach Popovich is telling us. And this is a guy who graduates from the Air Force Academy in 1970, spends 5 years in the military serving his country, and then devotes his life to basketball. He has a very high expectation level to his players, and they reach to get there, Dan. He's been an extraordinary coach.
Melvin Eli, the jumper. Parker, Duncan, and Bowen went out to huge ovations on that last whistle. Ginobili left a minute or so earlier. 78 points tonight for the big three of the San Antonio Spurs as they're about to cut into the New Orleans lead in this series. Robert Horry. Horry with 7 NBA titles in his career with 3 different teams. Pargo lays it in with the left hand. I think you could say Tony Parker and Chris Paul played each other to a standstill tonight. Both played at an exceedingly high level, but it's the San Antonio Spurs who will win the game. And now we'll look to tie up the series when they resume this series Sunday night here at the AT&T Center. Duncan worked hard for everything he got tonight. Parker and Ginobili were electrifying at times, as was Chris Paul.